So today we're going to be talking about youth courts with Richard Williams. Richard, why do children go to court?
Well, the criminal justice system treats children differently from adults. So the age of criminal responsibility in England and Wales is 10. So if a child is arrested or charged and they're under 10, they won't go to court. However, if they are over 10 and they are arrested and charged, then they will go to court, and that court is the youth court.
And what type of cases are dealt with by the youth court?
The youth court deals with lots of different cases, but generally they are things like sort of knife crime, burglary, antisocial behaviour, perhaps some drug offences. I think the important thing to remember actually is that whilst youth court deals with lots of different cases, if it is a very serious case, then that might well go to an adult court.
Speaking of adult courts, what's the difference between youth courts and adult courts?
The youth court is designed to be less formal than the adult court. They're specifically designed to make it less intimidating for young people. There's no jury involved. Also, the public are excluded from attending the youth court, and a parent and guardian must be present for children under the age of 16 or less the court specify.
Mm-hmm. And are there any special things that are done for children in the youth courts?
Absolutely. There can be things like the way that the room is structured. There can be additional time given for the way in which questions are asked or answered, the type of language used by perhaps those that are hearing the case, or perhaps solicitors or barristers or anyone else who's prosecuting or defending, should all be designed to make sure that the young person fully understands what's happening.
And where are youth courts?
They are generally as part of the magistrates' courts, but some of those magistrates' courts might have dedicated youth courts.
And who hears the cases?
It can be a combination of people. It can either be a number of magistrates, or it can be a single district judge. The magistrate is often supported by a legally trained clerk who will help with sentencing.
And what other types of sentences can a youth court give?
There are lots of different sentences that the youth court can give. There are specific sentencing guidelines designed for young people, and they range at one end to custodial sentences. They can involve fines and custodial discharges, but the primary aim of thinking about sentencing is to make sure that the individual's welfare is protected and that there's some form of rehabilitation.
It sounds like a youth court could be quite intimidating. Is there any kind of support given to children and to parents perhaps when they go to the youth court?
There's different types of support. You know, there will be individuals from the youth offending team present. There might be court support officers there that might help, and also the kind of legal advisors or lawyers should sort of take steps to make sure that the young person, perhaps the parents or guardians or appropriate adults supporting the young person, fully understand what is happening, the options available to them, and sort of the consequences or ramifications of some of those options and choices.
What if my child has developmental or neurodiverse needs or requirements? Can anything be done in the youth courts for that?
Absolutely. We expect solicitors who we regulate to make sure that they take appropriate steps to understand and to fully understand whether or not an individual has any particular needs. And if those needs have been identified, that then with the consent of the individual, that there are appropriate considerations put in place. And again, that might be things like the way that questions are asked, the time available to answer the questions.
And how can I tell if my lawyer is doing a good job whilst we're there?
I think it's a really good question, because actually it's really difficult, I think, for lots of people to understand whether or not their solicitor is doing a good job or not. What we've done is identify what good practice looks like, and that's available on our website. So you can use that to look at to see if your solicitor is doing a good job and meeting some of those expectations that we've outlined.
And what can I do if I don't think my lawyer is doing a good job?
Firstly, it's to sort of understand why you think they're perhaps not doing a good job. And if it's something that you feel that you can address, for example, perhaps they're not explaining something clearly, or perhaps the language they're using you don't quite understand, then perhaps one avenue is to perhaps have a conversation with your solicitor or your legal advisor or your lawyer and say, you know, could you really take some time to explain this? I really want to understand what's going on. If perhaps you don't feel comfortable doing that, then you could perhaps speak to the firm that employs the solicitor and say, actually, please could you just make sure that this is happening. If you think it's particularly serious, then you can contact us at the SRA and we can have a look into the issue.
Thanks, Richard. That's been really useful.